Hello, my name is Liza Elise, or Kathleen of Misery, and today, if you can tell by the playmat, we're going to be talking about one of the, at time of recording, brand new Stride deck sets, Masked Magician Harri. Now, Masked Magician Harri is a Pale Moon deck, so its whole gimmick is going to be calling units from Soul, putting them back in, and calling more out. And since this is a Stride deck set, instead of going over the deck first, we're just going to take a quick overview of the two strides that come with it. Your first stride for the deck is going to be the Jester Demonic Dragon, Lunatic Dragon, who, with his Magi ability for turning over a card in your G-Zone, lets you check the top 5 cards of your deck, put one into Soul, then call a unit from Soul. Very simple, very straightforward. This is an act ability, so it happens, so you have to do it during your main phase. And at the end of the turn, the unit that you called goes to your Soul. And then the other stride that you get with this deck, as your default one, which we do know later on, we may get more, is going to be Dragon Masquerade Harri, who on attack at Generation Break 2 with his Magi ability, as long as it's attacking the Vanguard, by doing Counterblast 1 and shoving 2 rearguards into Soul, you get to call 2 units from Soul and then select 2 of your opponent's rearguards and put them into their Soul. And at the end of the turn, the 2 units you call go back to the Soul. So this is going to be your main combo attacker. This is how you're going to be swinging 5 or 6 times within a battle phase. And now that we've gone ahead, we've gone ahead and covered the strides that are going to be in everything no matter what. Let's go ahead and go over the deck. So obviously with Stride deck sets, you mandatory have to use the full ride line that comes with it. So we've got Happiness Collector, who, when you go into the Moonlight Melody Tamer, Betty gets you your Betty will get you your Harri Crest and draw you a card. Now the Harri Crest, it has all the normal crest abilities. You can stride, but you can't ride anything that isn't Harri. Your Harri's base power is 13. And your front row gains 5k for every face-up G unit in your G-Zone. Along with that, the special ability of the Harri Crest is for at Generation Break 2. At the end of your turn, as long as at least 2 cards were put into Soul during the end phase, you draw a card. So it's an extra draw, and it's very helpful, especially when your Harri's Generation Break 2 ability isn't actually really online half the time. But along with that, let's go ahead to our grade 2 card dealer Jacqueline, who, when she is rode upon, for a Soul Blast, she lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, pick 2 normal units, one goes to hand, the other goes to Soul. And when she's placed on rear from Soul, she gets 5k, so she gets a little bit bigger. And then lastly, we have the boy, the man of the hour himself, Masked Magician Harri, who at Generation Break 2, on attack, you just get to free call a unit from Soul and give it 3k. And then his Magi ability, when he's strode over, is for a Counterblast, Soul Charge 1, call a unit from Soul, give it 5k, and put it in Soul at the end of the turn. For my grade 3 lineup, I'm on 2 more copies of Masked Magician Harri, because the Dragon Masquerade Harri does need him as the discard to go into. I'm also on 3 copies of Flying Manticore, who first, as long as you have a Harri Vanguard, he gets 2 skills. His Magi ability, which at the end of the battle he attacked, as long as you're Generation Break 1 and you haven't called a unit from Soul during the battle phase yet, for Counterblast and shoving him into Soul, you get to call a unit to rearguard circle, and at the end of the turn, that unit goes back to Soul. And along with that, when he's discarded for Stride, you draw a card. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard. Along with that, I'm on 2 copies of Soul Funeral Dragon Nocturcio, who, when placed on rear or guardian circle, as long as you have a grade 4 Vanguard or can reveal a grade 4 in hand, which you'll never be able to do that one, depending on where it's placed, you get 2 effects. Either for a counterblast, you draw a card and put 2 cards from drop into soul, which will let you recycle some of your rear guards that you put in that you had soul blast for costs maybe, or have been retired because XYZ reasons. Or it just becomes a 15k guard. You'll never be able to use the 15k guard skill because of how the deck works, because you don't have a grade 4 main decked. You could hypothetically play like Drudged Ignis as a one of. I know some Nairos builds are doing that with Magnolia Elder. But I don't think it really helps Harri much. Along with that, when he's discarded for riding into a grade 3 or 2 stride, you get to draw a card. So he does the same thing as Manticore Dragon with an additional plus, so you can use him as cost to go into Harri and then discard Manticore Dragon to go into your Lunatic Dragon. Or Flying Manticore. I don't know why I called it Dragon. Anyways, for my Regala Space, I'm on Evergreen Transfer, which for a Soul Blast gives 25k to one of your units till the end of the battle, and your Vanguard gets the skill that all of your opponent's units with 100 million or greater power get -1 crit. Which, the main reason this is important in the deck is because you don't have a lot of good defensive options. You can also run a Protection Twin Cast is also really good. But the deck it relies on counterblast a lot, but you need to be able to guard yourself through later turns. But that wraps up our grade 3 lineup. For grade 2s, I'm on 3 copies of Direful Doll Ornetta, who, when placed on Rearguard Circle, as long as you have the Harri Crest, you can check the top 5 for a card and put into Soul. And then when she's put on guard, same thing, if you have the Crest, you get to Soul Charge 1. She's very simple. She's a nice grade 2. She's good for building up the specific units you want in your soul very well. And one of the main ones that you're going to be wanting is Dark Side Princess, who at the end of the battle, she attacks. You can put her into soul, so she gives you some nice grade 2 gaming. You can call her swing, just shove her into soul, so she's safe from whatever your opponent may do. And on Generation Break 1, when she's placed on rear from soul, as long as you have a grade 3 or greater Harri, she gets 10k, and if you have 2 face-up G units in your G zone, it's 15 instead. So she's your main beater. She's going to be your main beater and attacker. And you do run through Counterblast a lot in this deck, but you're also able to really build up a large soul. So I'm on 2 copies of Selfish Engraver, who on hit, soul charges 1, and at the end of the battle, she attacks. As long as you have 10 cards in soul, you can shove her in to countercharge 1. And since you're going to be pulling units out of soul, shoving them back in all the time, you're going to be able to proc this several times throughout a game. On that, I'm on 2 copies of Servant Fluctatia, who, as long as she attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, you can take a Dark States card from drop, shove into soul, and she'll gain 5k for each grade of the card put into soul. The second effect doesn't actually matter here, but at the end of the turn, if you have a grade 4 or greater Vanguard, you put her into soul to draw a card. The reason that doesn't matter is your G unit goes back to the G zone before that procs. And last for grade 2s, I'm on a little bit of that spice. I'm on 2 copies of Upstream Dragon, who for Generation Break 1, when he attacks a Vanguard, it gets 5k, and at the end of the battle, you can bottom deck it to call a grade 1 to the back row Rearguard Circle from deck, which I'm using that mainly for new boosts and getting additional power in the battle phase. For my grade 1 lineup, I'm on 3 copies of Masquerade Bunny, who, when discarded for stride, counts as a grade 3, and you can discard her to search out a Master Magician Harri as long as you have the crest. She's the reason why I'm only on 2 Harri instead of main decking 3, because she lets you search your deck for them, and because she can search from drop 2, she makes them recyclable. Along with that, I'm on 2 copies of Cutie Paratrooper, who, when placed, as long as it's not during the battle phase, as long as you have a grade 3 Harri, you can put a different rear guard into your soul, and then you just choose a different rear guard and a different unit for your soul that has a different card in than the one you put in, and call it at the end of the turn. It goes back to the soul. And for building up soul a little bit more, I'm on 3 copies of Brainwash Swirler, who on place. Soul charge 1, and as long as your Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, every time you soul charge, he'll gain 5. And 2 copies of Steam Battle Gungrum, who on play soul charges 1, and for Soul Blast 3 can draw you a card, which can be very helpful in later game states where you have excess soul. You're not going to be calling everything. You don't need the extras in there, and you just need the cards in hand. Lastly, of course, 4 perfect cards, including the Sanctitude. Since Harri and Nairos are in format, the regular Sanctitude is going to be a bit more important in my opinion. And lastly, for triggers, I'm on 7 criticals, just the regular vanilla crits. I don't think the soul crits are going to be very helpful in Harri. I'm on 4 front triggers because you're always going to be trying to hit big, hit as hard and fast as possible. 4 heals, just the regular heals. And then I'm using Ito's Faro right now in Harri. You can honestly use whichever one you want, in my opinion. The reason I'm using Ito's Faro is for the recycling effect when you drive check it. But you can also use the purple one, Nyx Azalea, if you want to get some extra healing out of it. But that's going to be it for this video. Sorry about my voice and the way I'm cutting out, by the way. I've got a bit of a cold. So hopefully it wasn't too awful to watch, but if you did, it's YouTube. You know what to do. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Ciao.